Long before the Greek gods existed, there was the first divine being. He was once called Naruto Uzumaki, but now he is known by many names. The Creator. The first primordial. But by most people, he is known as Chaos. Unknown to even the gods, he was once part of the elemental nations, but that place was flawed. There was never true peace. So after absorbing the powers of Kagaya, the divine beings of that realm, Kami, Yami, and Shinigami approached him and asked him to absorb them and correct this flawed world. He agreed, and after absorbing them, he became a god. He absorbed all the chakra in the world and destroyed the elemental nations. Then, he created a new world. A world with the underworld to punish or reward the dead for their actions on Earth. Then he created the first living beings on the planet. The primordial, Gaia, Arenas and Tartarus. And then he created humans, with no chakra this time, and the mist, to hide the divine and non-humanly actions going on. He had used up a lot of power after creating an entire world, so he went to rest below Tartarus, in a place named after his new name, Chaos. In there he would observe the world and see what happened in it through the times. He would also train in his mindscape, making him infinitely stronger. 1,000,000 years later. Naruto yan hey Kurama. How long have I been asleep? 1,000,000 years Kit, said Kurama. Wait. You are a god for sage's sake. You are the first and ultimate divine being and the last one with chakra, and you don't know how long you have been sleeping? I guess you are right. So now who exactly is ruling the world right now? Zeus and the Olympians. They call themselves gods. Right. Now I remember. Let's go give them a visit, shall we? I want to see how things have been going on. Let's go, Kit. Let's have some fun. Sure. Naruto/Chaos teleports in front of the doors of the Olympian throne room where they have been fighting over who stole Zeus' Master Bolt. Chaos opens the door and walks in wearing a orange and black hoodie with black pants and black Nike shoes. All gods stop talking and stare at the hooded man entering the room. Who are you and how dare you interrupt this meeting? I will kill you for this, said the king of the god, Zeus. I thought the king of the gods should know stuff. Well, I can't really blame you. How dare you? He shoots a powerful lightning bolt at Naruto that would incinerate a mortal. Naruto smirks and catches the lightning bolt between his two fingers. All gods are dumbfounded and Zeus is fuming. Naruto then starts growing in size till he is even bigger than Zeus. He then throws the lightning bolt back at Zeus, who gets hit and is in pain. Who are you? Asked Athena, the goddess of wisdom with fear in her eyes. Something she has not felt in a really long time. Me, said Naruto as he slowly pulls down his hood. I am Zeus' great-grandfather. I am Chaos. All of the gods are shocked. They are speechless. Oh, don't worry. I am not here to erase you all from existence or lecture you on how you should be treating the mortals. He continued, I am just here for a nice family reunion. Leaving out the titans and giants and demigods and minor gods. Wait. Someone's missing. He snaps his finger and both Hades and Hestia appear. How did I get here? Said the god of the underworld. I don't know, continued Hestia. I brought you here, answered Chaos. And who might you be? Questioned Hades. I am your great-grandfather, Chaos, and judging from the glares that we are getting by the rest of our family, we are not really liked. You got that right. Hello, Hestia. Hello, great-grandfather, said the goddess of family. At least someone here has respect for family, said Chaos, wiping off a fake tear from his eye. Now, back to business. What is the fuss going on here? Someone stole Zeus' master bolt and he blames Poseidon for it, blurted out Apollo. Apollo, shut up. We don't even know if we can trust him yet, said Athena. You can't even trust your family? No wonder this is the most complicated and problematic family in the world. What do you mean by that? Asked Hera, a bit frustrated. This is what I mean. Hades is neglected and hated by the rest of the family except Hestia. Hestia isn't even remembered anymore. Dionysus is grounded for 100 years. Artemis hates boys. Hephaestus got rejected by his own mom. Apollo is cool but an idiot and flirts with everyone possible, which gets him into trouble. Ares is just too thick-skulled. The only thing Demeter likes is plants. Aphrodite only cares about her looks and is cheating on her husband freely. Hermes. Man, you got to make people respect you. They treat you like a walking email. Athena. I know you got angry when Waterboy messed around with his girlfriend in your temple, but was it really necessary to turn her into a snake-haired monster that turned people into statues? You just gave demigods one more problematic monster to deal with, like they didn't have enough already. Poseidon. You know bedrooms exist for multiple purposes, right? Was it necessary to use Athena's temple? Hera. I know that you are the goddess of marriage, but remember. You are also the goddess of women, so if Zeus keeps cheating on you, so what? It's not like it is ever going to change. So live your immortal life to the fullest and screw Zeus, and sometimes just remember, even though you are gods, marrying your brother is just weird. According to me, y'all should get a divorce already. And finally, Thunderboy. The biggest problem in the family. You really need to remove that massive stick that is up your ass. All you do is think that you are the greatest power in the world, but you are not. You cast down your own family to earth multiple times for reasons they didn't deserve. You cast Hades down to the underworld and all of you hate him. He does not even have a seat in Olympus. He did nothing to y'all, yet he is treated like an outsider. If you all think that he is evil, then he is not. Zeus, you get angry at every small thing, but you need to realize that being humble will make you a good king, and your arrogance and your paranoia that people want to overthrow you will be your downfall. It was your father's downfall and your grandfather's, and if you do not change, it will be yours. That was beautiful. You were so subtle about it that I didn't even understand if you were roasting us or trying to correct our mistakes, said Hestia. Poseidon and Hades burst out into laughter. Hear that, brother? You need to get rid of that massive stick up your ass, teased Poseidon. Zeus just shot them a death glare. But in all seriousness, continued Chaos. You gods treat mortals like garbage. That needs to change. And most of you don't even care about your children. I am not telling you that you should visit them daily because I know you all are bound by ancient laws and cannot visit them directly. But there are a number of ways you can make them know that you love them, because one thing that you all should know is that if you don't treat your family like one, then there will be problems. Kronos and Aurenas have experienced that, and I don't want you to be the next one, Zeus. Also, Hades, Hestia and I will get seats in Olympus because Hades and Hestia are a part of the family and Hestia will need to keep the family together. So there will be 15 Olympians now. Hey, who are you to tell us what to do and what not to? You are not even a god. Naruto sighed and raised up his hand. Suddenly, Arya came flying out of his chair and came towards Naruto. He pulled back his fist and delivered one straight punch into Arya's gut, knocking the air out of him. See, this is what I meant by thick-skulled, after all my lectures. I am the oldest and strongest member of your family, so show me some respect, or I will have to knock some sense into you, brat. Ares dropped unconscious. Athena, please knock some sense into your brother. Hera, make sure to remove that stick that is up Zeus's ass. Poseidon and Hades, help her out. Your brother is more stubborn than Tartarus. As for the rest of you, get to know Hades, trust me, he might get a bit dark sometimes, but he is a cool guy. Everyone just nodded, being shocked at how powerful he was to knock Ares out in just one punch. How do you know so much? Asked Athena. When I was sleeping for these million years, I wasn't just sleeping. I was observing what was happening through the times and training in my mindscape. Training? Yes. Training. Why? To get stronger and get better control over my powers, which are endless, so I always train. But you are already so strong. You knocked Ares out in just one punch. I am really strong, but there can be threats in the future. Even though they might not be as powerful as me, they can always have some tricks up their sleeves. Besides, training is more like a hobby to me. You gods never train thinking you are perfect, but you are not. Nobody is. Not even I am perfect. I understand. You know, I could always train any of you to get better control over powers. How can you train us in our domains? Asked Artemis. You are forgetting, Artie. I created everything, including this planet, the underworld, and Tartarus. I have control over every domain and I have mastered all their powers. Chaos replied. Let me show you something. Just as he said this, a chair made of plants, wood and grape wines sat down on it as half of his body started glowing like the sun and the other half started emitting moonlight. He held out his right hand, in which a ball of energy started forming. Then it started glow pink as fire, water, lightning, wind and small rocks started spinning around it. Beside him 2 skeleton guards appeared with a spear and a sword. The first one sat on a boar, while the second one sat on a cow. Whoa! You weren't lying. Can you please train me, Super Gramps? Pleaded Apollo with puppy dog eyes. Sure. You might even become stronger than Zeus, but he will remain the king of the gods and you will not try to overthrow him, okay? Okay, said Apollo with a huge grin on his face. Stop acting like a child, Apollo. Super Gramps? Really? Asked Artemis. I don't mind, said Chaos while Apollo just pouted. How do you have such mastery over our domains even more than us? I am sure even Father cannot control lightning to such a degree, asked Artemis. I told you. I have been training for 1,000,000 years. Also, I know a lot of things. I can even read minds. So I know exactly who stole your lightning bolt. Who is it? Zeus boomed. There you go again with your dominating attitude. You really need to learn how to chill. Learn something from Apollo or Poseidon. Apollo and Poseidon, I demand you to teach me the art of chilling. Everybody's sweat dropped. I won't tell you who stole it because it will be nice quest for the demigods and Zeus. Do not blame any god or demigod or even threaten them if you don't know who is the true culprit. Chaos said, releasing killer intent towards Zeus, who got a cold shiver down his spine. Why yes. Poseidon burst out into laughter. Look at the mighty Zeus scared. Everybody just chuckled while Zeus shot him a death glare. I will start training all of you and the demigods after your toy is returned, Zeus, said Chaos. It is not a toy. It is the most powerful weapon in the entire world, complained Zeus. To me it is just a toy. I will give you an actual weapon after you learn to be humble and get rid of that stick up your ass. TCH. Anyways, I will see you all later when the bolt is returned. Till then, treat Hades nicely and Hestia, make sure that the family stays together. Bye, he said as he disappeared in black flames. That was Dash, said Hera. Weird, replied Athena. Cool, argued Apollo. Awesome. He totally roasted Zeus' ass, said Poseidon, grinning. While Zeus just glared at him. Huh. Poseidon. Return my lightning bolt, said Ares as he slowly woke up. Then he fell asleep again. Everybody just chuckled and face-palmed. It was a normal day at the Yancey Academy. A normal boring day in Percy Jackson's math class right before someone new joined the class. Honeys, we have a new student today. His name is Naruto Uzumaki and he is from Japan. He recently moved to New York. As she said this, a boy wearing an orange hoodie and black pants came into view. He had blonde spiky hair, 3 whisker marks on each of his cheeks and deep blue eyes. Percy Jackson. Raise your hand. Honey, go sit next to that brat. The math teacher continued. Naruto went and sat next to Percy. Hey, who is she? She is weird. She is Miss Dodds, our math teacher, replied Percy. Apparently she hates you. You got that right. Miss Dodds was a math teacher from Georgia who always wore a black leather jacket even though she was 50 years old. She looked mean enough to ride a Harley straight into your locker, according to Percy, and had come Yancey recently as their previous math teacher had a nervous breakdown. The class continued. It was really boring, and not many people were paying attention. Occasionally, Miss Dodds would ask Percy some questions that he wouldn't know the answers of. At the end of the class, they had a test in which Naruto and Percy got the lowest marks. The next class was Latin, which was taught by Mr. Brunner. He was a middle-aged man in a motorized wheelchair. He had thinning hair and a scruffy beard and a frayed tweed jacket which smelled like coffee. Percy seems to like the guy, thought Naruto, as he was more interactive in this class. After the classes, the students started moving to their dorm rooms. Percy, Naruto, and a boy named Grover were walking together. "Hey Naruto, which dorm are you in?" asked Percy. "Dorm room 101. Replied Naruto. "Really? That means we are in the same dorm along with Grover. Awesome." The next few months in the Yancey Academy were pretty great for the boys. They have become really close friends and are always together. Naruto quickly realized that Grover was being bullied by this girl named Nancy Bobo Fit and he did not like it. In fact, he hated her, all three of the boys did. Naruto remembered his own past when he was in the Shinobi Academy and everybody would bully him, so he stood up for Grover. The first time he saw Nancy bully Grover, he released a very small amount of killing intent at her, which was enough to scare her so bad she thought that he was a monster and never came anywhere near them when Naruto was with them. After this incident, Miss Dodds also hated Naruto as he was helping the two boys and she seemed to love Nancy. Today, they were going on a field trip to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Percy had a bad history with field trips. Whenever he went on a field trip, something bad would happen, but this time, he hoped that nothing would go wrong. Mr. Brunner led them into the museum on his motorized wheelchair and gathered everyone around a 4-meter-tall stone column with a big sphinx on the top. And started explaining about how it was a grave marker, a steal, for a girl about the age of the students. He told them about the carvings on the sides. Percy and Naruto were trying to listen to it, though Naruto already knew everything about it, while everybody else around them were talking. So Naruto and Percy took turns telling them to shut up, and every time Miss Dodds would give them the evil eye. Mr. Brunner kept talking about Greek funeral art. Finally, when Percy heard Nancy Bobo Fit snicker something about the naked guy on the stele, he turned around and said, "Will you shut up?" It came out rather loud than he meant it to. The whole group laughed. Mr. Brunner stopped his story. "Mr. Jackson," he said, "did you have a comment?" His face was totally red as he said, "No, sir." Mr. Brunner pointed to one of the pictures on the stele. "Perhaps you'll tell us what this picture represents?" He looked at the carving and felt a flush of relief because he actually recognized it. "That's Kronos eating his kids, right?" "Yes," Mr. Brunner said, obviously not satisfied. "And he did this because..." Well, he racked his brain to remember. Kronos was the king god, an god? Mr. Brunner asked. Titan, he corrected himself. And he didn't trust his kids, who were the gods. So, Kronos ate them, right? But his wife hid baby Zeus and gave Kronos a rock to eat instead. And later, when Zeus grew up, he tricked his dad, Kronos, into barfing up his brothers and sisters. "Ew," said one of the girls behind him. And so there was a big fight between the gods and the Titans, he continued, and the gods won. Some snickers were heard from the group. Behind him, Nancy Bobofit mumbled to a friend, like we're going to use this in real life. Like it's going to say on our job applications, please explain why Kronos ate his kids. And why, Mr. Jackson, Brunner said, to paraphrase Miss Bobofit's excellent question, does this matter in real life? Busted, Grover muttered as Naruto chuckled. Shut up, Nancy hissed, her face even brighter red than her hair. At least Nancy got in trouble, too. Mr. Brunner was the only one who ever caught her saying anything wrong. Percy thought about his question and shrugged. I don't know, sir. I see. Mr. Brunner looked disappointed. Well, half credit, Mr. Jackson. Zeus did indeed feed Kronos a mixture of mustard and wine, which made him disgorge his other 5 children, who, of course, being immortal gods, had been living and growing up completely undigested in the Titan's stomach. The gods defeated their father, sliced him to pieces with his own scythe, and scattered his remains in Tartarus, the darkest part of the underworld. On that happy note, it's time for lunch. Mrs. Dodds, would you lead us back outside? The class moved outside the museum to have lunch as Mr. Brunner stopped Percy and gave him a talk about how he expected a lot from him and that he should learn everything that he taught him. He said that is very important. Percy wanted to get angry. The teacher pushed him too hard. He expected him to be better than everybody else, but Percy had dyslexia and ADHD and had never gotten higher than a C in his life. He just couldn't learn all the names and facts about the Greeks and Romans, much less spell them correctly. Percy walked outside and sat beside Grover next to the fountain. Naruto wasn't there as he had gone to use the toilet back in the museum. Nancy Bobofit and her ugly friends came in front of them as she dropped her half-eaten lunch in Grover's lap. Oops, she said as she grinned at Percy with her crooked teeth. Percy tried to control his anger. The school counselor had told him 1,000,000 times to count to 10 and control his temper, but he was so mad that his mind went blank and he heard a wave roaring in his ears. The next thing he knew, Nancy was sitting on her butt in the fountain. He didn't remember pushing her, but she screamed anyways, "Percy pushed me." Miss Dodds materialized in next to them. Some of the kids were whispering, "Did you see? The water. Like it grabbed her." Percy didn't know what they were talking about. All he knew was that he was in big trouble. Grover tried telling Miss Dodds that he was the one who pushed Nancy into the fountain, but she didn't listen to him. She led Percy into the museum. At first, he thought that she would make him buy a new shirt for Nancy from the gift shop, but apparently that wasn't the plan as she led him deeper into the museum. They were back in the Greek and Roman gallery, but for them, the gallery was empty. She stood in front of him with her arms crossed, making a weird sound from her throat, like growling. Even without the noise, he would have been nervous. It's weird being alone with a teacher, especially Mrs. Dodds. "You have been giving us problems, honey," she said. He did the safe thing and said, "Yes, ma'am." "Did you really think you would get away with it?" The look in her eyes was beyond mad. It was evil. She was a teacher, he thought nervously. It's not like she was going to hurt him. "We are not fools, Percy Jackson," Mrs. Dodds said. "It was only a matter of time before we found out. Confess, and you will suffer less pain." He didn't know what she was talking about. All he could think of was that she had found the illegal stash of candy he was selling outside his dorm or that he had copied his essays from the internet, but it didn't sound like it. He was freaking out in his mind. Well, she demanded. Ma'am, I don't know dash, he started to reply. Your time is up, she hissed. Then the weirdest thing in his entire life happened. Her eyes began to glow like barbecue coals. Her fingers stretched, turning into talons. Her jacket melted into large, leathery wings. She wasn't human. She was a shriveled hag with bat wings and claws and a mouth full of yellow fangs, and she was about to slice him to ribbons. Then things got even stranger. Mr. Brunner, who'd been out in front of the museum a minute before, wheeled his chair into the doorway of the gallery, holding a pen in his hand. What ho, Percy, he shouted, and tossed the pen through the air. Mrs. Dodds lunged at him. Die, honey. Percy was scared for his life when things got even more strange. Suddenly Naruto appeared in front of him and yelled, Gale palm, and thrust his palm forward. A huge gust of wind came from his palm and slammed into the creature, who was formerly known Miss Dodds, as she was blown back and slammed into the wall. Percy caught the pen that Mr. Brunner threw at him. Wait, it wasn't a pen anymore. It was a bronze sword. He stared at it in shock. Then he looked at Naruto. What did you just do? What was that? You shot wind from your palm? How? No time to explain. I could kill the monster, but I need you to get over your fear, so I will launch the monster at you and you will kill it, okay? He replied. Oh, okay, Percy replied, stuttering because he was still extremely confused and scared. He moved back a bit to give Naruto some space. Fire style, Phoenix Flower Jutsu, he yelled as he shot multiple small fireballs from his mouth at Mrs. Dodds. She dodged some, but others hit her. Then suddenly, Naruto appears behind her and yells once again, Gale palm, as he released a powerful gust of wind that sent her flying towards Percy. Percy. Now, commanded Naruto. Percy just looks in horror as the creature comes flying towards him saying, Die, die, die honey I. At the last moment he closed his eyes and swung the sword. Luckily, it passed straight through her should like she was made of water. Mrs. Dodds exploded into yellow powder and instantly vaporized. He opened his eyes to see a ballpoint pen in his hand. Then he looked up to see Naruto standing in front of him with his arms crossed. I know what you are thinking, was it all real? To answer the question, yes it was. All of it. If you want to know how I was so fast and could shoot fireballs and wind, well, that would have to wait till we are somewhere private and comfortable. By the way, congrats on killing your first monster, said the blonde, grinning. Percy just looked at him with shock and nodded dumbly. Also, if Mr. Brunner asks you to give you that pen back, don't. It is your only weapon and you will need it. Also, don't talk to people about Miss Dodds. Things will just get more confusing. Percy nodded again. Then they both walked outside and saw Grover still sitting next to the fountain and Nancy was still wet, grumbling to her ugly friends. When she saw Percy she said, I hope Mrs. Kerr whipped your butt. Who? Percy asked in confusion. Our teacher. Duh. Percy blinked. They had no teacher called Mrs. Kerr. He asked Nancy what she was talking about. She just rolled her eyes and walked away. He asked Grover, wasn't our teacher Mrs. Dodds? He said, who? But he paused first and he wouldn't look at him, so Percy thought that he was messing with him. Not funny, man, Percy told him. This is serious. Thunder boomed overhead. He saw Mr. Brunner sitting on his wheelchair, reading his book, as if he'd never moved. Percy went over to him. He looked up, a little distracted. Ah, that would be my pen. Please bring your own writing utensil in the future, Mr. Jackson. He realized he was still holding the pen. Sir, can I please keep this pen? He asked. Mrs. Brunner looked at Naruto. He could see it in his eyes that he knew something. They would have to have a talk later. Naruto just nodded and mouthed, I will keep him safe. This made him even more suspicious. Mrs. Brunner looked concerned but finally agreed to Percy's request, sure. Sir, Percy said, Grover and Yancey are saying that our teacher is Mrs. Kerr. What about Mrs. Dodds? He stared at the confused boy blankly. Who? The other chaperone. Mrs. Dodds. The pre-algebra teacher. He frowned and sat forward, looking mildly concerned. Percy, there is no Mrs. Dodds on this trip. As far as I know, there has never been a Mrs. Dodds at Yancey Academy. Are you feeling all right? Percy just looked at Naruto. The blonde smirked and mouthed, I told you. Confusion.